My name is Jamie and I have Jandre on camera with me. Brent is out with Dave searching for all of the magical creatures of the African bush. And if this is your first time in joining us, we are coming to you live from Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserve in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And not only are we live, but we are also interactive, which means you can send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can do that through email on questions@WildEarthTV. And let us go and head out on this bright and beautiful sunny winter's afternoon. I've forgotten what temperature it is, but it's nice and warm. Let's go with that. I completely got out of my head. It's nice and warm, and it's another beautiful cloudless day. 26 and 78, 26, 78, says the little voice in my ear that belongs to Jerry, who will be directing us this afternoon with the help of the eminently capable Rebecca. Everything is starting to... Oh, it's only fitting, you know, Jandre. It really is only fitting. You can see him there. So this morning I thought that Jandre and myself had found every steenbok in the area. I missed one. But that's okay, we've put it on camera for the sunset safari. Somehow it just worked out that way. And we seem to encounter... Sorry, there's a funny smell coming from Wendy. It smells a bit like burning. It's just the handbrake up. That would explain that. I was going to say that Jandre and myself found every single steenbok, but we didn't. We missed one. We just had a steenbok and warthog, actually, filled morning. No sign of the lovely Queen Karula. If you missed the sunrise safari this morning, her kill is gone from the tree in which she had placed it. We could see the mark where it had tumbled down out of the tree and onto the ground, and obviously it had been gobbled up by some hungry hyena. As to where Karula has disappeared to with her two lovely cubs, well, she didn't go east, west or south, so I'm assuming she's either somewhere very close to where we left her, or she's come north, which is where we're heading to at the moment. And thank you to Kevin Catfish's update about the elephants on the Djuma Dam camera. I'm also planning on paying them a visit, because going a 24-hour period without seeing an elephant is not how I want to spend my weekend. And we're going to go and look for some elephants to show you as well. And then there is, of course, the mystery as to where the Nkuhumas disappeared to. Nobody's seen hide nor hair of them, or indeed tracks this morning. They've got to be around somewhere. And then we will, of course, keep you updated as to what is happening with the elephant that died of natural causes on Buffelshoek. Find out whether or not any of the lions have gone across in that direction. Whenever you see me doing this and going backwards, it's because I've spotted some footprints in the sand, and I want to just double check exactly what they are. I don't know what I saw here, but something attracted my attention. I think it's just old hyena tracks from our clan making their way back towards the Manuleti. Yeah, definitely just old hyena tracks. I got very excited there for a moment, thought perhaps wild dogs had come wandering around. And the lovely news is that Brent is finally able to go to Cheetah Plains. The whole of this week he's been sort of thinking about it, but every time he heads in that direction something distracts him. Something wonderful, of course. I think it was leopard cubs the last time. But he does seem to be struggling to get there, so now he has disappeared off Djuma as quickly as possible in order to make sure that he isn't distracted by something on the way, and he's heading off to Cheetah Plains. It certainly feels like a while since we've been across in that direction. So Cheetah Plains, for those of you who are joining us for the first time or are unfamiliar with our geography of the area, Cheetah Plains is a reserve that There's part of our traverse area, but we have to travel quite a distance to get to. Now, depending on who is driving, it usually takes between 10 to 15 minutes. With Brent, it'll probably be about 10, and we'll see when he gets there what's happening on that side of the world. Right next to the Kruger boundary with some amazing views to look at. One thing we have noticed over the last few days, for me it feels like since Brent went to Rwanda, but it might even just have been since the rains fell, that the general game is hiding. I don't know where it's hiding away somewhere. We've had some spectacular sightings of leopards and lions, don't get me wrong, but our general game species seem to be keeping themselves relatively scarce, barring, of course, for the steenbok. We saw, how many did we see, Jean-Andre? 6, 7, 8 this morning? That would be about right. It was about 8 this morning. Now 9 steenbok. Okay, we're going to do a steenbok-themed Saturday. It's not Saturday Catterday anymore, it is Saturday Steenbok Day. Doesn't have quite the same ring to it. For the initial stages of our sunset safari, we have to avoid the front of the lodges because we go out a little bit earlier than they do, which means we don't really want to disturb the guests while they're having their afternoon tea just before they go out on game drive. I'm relatively certain this is a log, but I would never forgive myself if I drove past a lion. Now I have to try and describe to Jean-Andre where it is. Do you see that dead tree? Not the one closest to us, but the one behind it. Yeah. A little bit to the left. There, yeah, no, too far. There we go. It's sort of on the right-hand side of your screen at the bottom there. There's something yellow. My binoculars are broken, which has been utterly devastating. Because that really could be a lion, or it could just be a bundle of leaves. Okay, Jean-Andre's vote is on log. Final control has said it doesn't look like a lion, but they'll wait to see if it moves. I confess, looking at it on the tiny monitor, it doesn't look anything like a lion, but it's the right sort of colour.
It's a good spot.
Thank you. Yes, I am very good at spotting lion logs and other such things. Termite mound leopards. I'm going to go with no. No, hold on. I swear that just moved. Just for the record, why we are not going to identify a little bit closer is because I can't. This is at Tambwerti Dam, which is outside of our traverse area. It might have just been the wind. Okay, well, it was a nice try, I guess. I suppose everybody is looking at what I'm looking at, which is where the dead tree behind the dead tree pens to the right, behind that. Okay. Alright. I'm going to go backwards a little bit and try and get another view. I am very good at spotting lion logs, and I did preempt this by saying I think it is a lion log. I think it might be... Oh! Do you see what I mean? Is it just a pile of coloured leaves?
Perhaps scarce rock.
Okay. Jean-Andre thinks rock. This is a dam, by the way. This is... No, I think, you know, when you go at this angle, it doesn't look like a lion at all. I can't even get out to go and walk there to double check. Wait, where's it gone? Oh, there. Okay, I give up. I might ask Aubrey or Jackson to go and investigate, but then I'm going to be really embarrassed if it's not. My binoculars are broken. so I can't double check. This is a waterhole. It is a waterhole that the lions often move through. It's called Tambuti Dam. Okay, shall we just pretend I haven't seen that? Because it's most frustrating. If the lions are called in coming onto Mvubu Road, then I know I was right. I mean, the lions are not exactly the most highly mobile at this time of day, but they're also not necessarily lying in the sun at this time of day, in these kind of temperatures. Should we just say I saw a lion? Should we just do that?
Yes.
Just to make me feel better? Thank you, Jeandre. I think there's a lion in there. Definitely a lion. There we go. Thank you, Jeandre. Jeandre now pandering to to my wishes. I'm honestly going to ask one of the guys to drive past Tambuti Dam and just check that there's no lions there. And I'm going to be very embarrassed when they say there's no lions. Final control was almost won over. Sorry, everybody hold on. Although Rebecca then said termite mound. It might have just been a group of yellow leaves. It was just that wrong colour. And welcome back, Dispatch. Again, it is lovely to have you on board. Dispatch, I think, is amongst some of our newest addicts to Safari Live. And Dispatch says that they send their apologies. And Dispatch, I'm sorry, I don't know whether you're a boy or a girl, so I'm kind of just using an indefinite pronoun here. But Dispatch has said that they are sorry that I saw another lion log. That's the word another that's worrying me so slightly. I'm going to go find you some real lions now. But Dispatch, you want to have some, or you have some burning questions. So you wanted to know what final control is, and you wanted to know what traverse area is. To start with final control is manned by several very, very capable ladies who, they watch the screens that the show is on. So obviously Brent has something on his vehicle, I have something on my vehicle. They choose when to switch and why, and what you might be looking at during the duration of the show. They are also responsible for feeding through your questions, so if something comes through wrong, it might not be my fault. Might be my fault. Might have misheard them, but it also might be their fault. They don't usually get it wrong though. They are expert in what they do. So D1 talks to us, chooses what you look at, and gets the show sort of rolling underway, every now and again cracking the whip. And D2 sifts through the questions and does several things like bookmarking sessions for us to review at a later stage to improve our safari experience, as well as creating highlight reels and so on. And we also get reporting done on us, on the way that we have conducted the safari, and feedback from them every single day. So that is the very incredibly valuable final control, without whom you would not have a live safari experience. Oh, and by the way, on the subject of final control, for those of you familiar with our team, Kirsty's arriving back today along with VM. So Kirsty the director and VM the wildebeest, a fantastic cameraman and a hilarious entertainer, will be thrilled to have him back in camp with his epic one-liners. And then traverse area, essentially, Cherry just said lovely in my ear. So, and then they laugh at our jokes too, which really helps, because obviously we're talking to the camera, and the cameramen laugh for us as well, which is really nice. But occasionally you don't quite know what's happening on the other side of things, so it's nice to have them as well. And then, traverse area, each and every lodge out here will drive their own property, as well as the property of other landowners, because the Sabi Sands is a conservancy made up of different landowners. Because they don't want to overutilize certain areas, there is a limit to which land you can traverse. There's all kinds of discussions and negotiations behind it. Usually this lodge will be able to traverse my land if my vehicles can traverse that land, and so on. So traverse area is essentially where you can drive. That's all it is, where you can drive. We can drive certain areas, Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains. We cannot drive Buffelshoek, which is where the lion was. It's not a lion log, it is a lion, I've decided. So where the lion is Buffelshoek, so we can't drive there. Nor can we walk there or go there unless we are invited at any point, or Torchwood, or in Coral, or Hoffman's, or Elephant Plains, or... I sound like I'm listing lots more than we can traverse. It's not that way at all. There's just... everybody has their places they can and can't go. Let me go over these bumps. And speaking of traverse areas, I believe that Brent has made the trip to the far east and is now on Cheetah Plains. So let's head to him and find out where he plans on starting his exploration.
Welcome to the Sunset Safari. My name is Brent. I have Dangerous Dish on camera, and we are in the center of Cheetah Plains at the moment, making our way past 3 in a row pan. Okay, Dave, I'm going to give it to you straight. Okay, you see that? That. Zoom, 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 all the way to the end of the zoom. Keep going, to the right. Is that a squirrel or is it a slender mongoose? See it there, Dave? No. It's not a pangolin, Dave, it's a slender mongoose. Okay. Beautiful. I just wanted to give you guys a quick look because they're quite difficult and they run away and they're quite skittish. It's a small carnivore and we're on a live safari. We were intending to look for some bigger carnivores, but I'll start with a small carnivore. Let's try and get a bit closer to him. Hopefully he doesn't skedaddle. Incredibly effective little carnivores. There he is out in the open. You got him there, Dave, on the road to the right of where he was. There. Is he stalking something? Bottom right hand corner. Center frame. There we go. Hello, Mr. Slender Mongoose. What are you trying to catch? I was saying they're incredible little carnivores. They'll catch birds, squirrels, insects, mice. I'll actually chase squirrels up trees. It almost looks like he's stalking something. One of their favorite foods is even francolin, can you believe it, which are much bigger than them. But their power to weight ratio is excellent. I can't see if he's spotted something to eat. Now, of course, being a carnivore, hunting lots of different things, but being his size, he gets hunted as well by different birds. Your big predatory birds. Looking back, or maybe there's something in the hole he's interested in. And like all carnivores, they show incredible patience. He's definitely looking for something in the bush. We can't see what it is just yet. So I'm very interested to sit here and see what happens. Very slow, deliberate movements. It's unusual to see them out in the open like this. Normally, if they're caught in the open, they scuttle for cover. Those ears are down. Head's focused. What are you after? Oh, well, his head's up now. So Dave and I are probably going to hang around a little bit, see what he gets up to. But while we do that, you might notice there's some very large leavings behind him at the top of frame. Jamie has got the creature that delivered those leavings.
We do indeed have whatever it was that Brent just describes them as. We've got some elephants, and thank you to Kevin Catfish, for whom we have to thank for this particular sighting, because he sent us off in the right direction. I have to tell you, before we get into our elephant sighting irreversibly, I have to tell you what Chandra just did to me. We saw the elephant, and then I stopped and pulled up alongside him, and then Chandra zoomed in on a log and started shouting, "It's a lion, it's a lion, look Jamie, it's a lion."
I would never do that.
Aha, sure. Chandra is now denying that. You can choose who you believe. Right, well that's an elephant. That is unequivocally an elephant. I've been in the bush a long time, and I can safely tell you that that is indeed an elephant. Plucking away at the bush willow. It's a young male on the outskirts of his herd. The rest of them are in this really tricky drainage system. But I'm hoping that they decide to come out more into the open, because at the moment, most of them are just almost like grey ghosts hidden behind the trees. I think that's one of the things that we love so much about elephants is, despite their massive size, and I mean they really are massive, it's hard to get a sense of perspective. This is a little boy, but even he is enormous compared to us. But despite their massive size, they're such unobtrusive animals. They're such quiet walkers. Silent and subtle, I think, is a good way of describing them. Except, of course, when they push over an enormous tree and it makes a sound like a rifle crack. Then that's less subtle. Hey, little boy. Calling him little boy. He's right at the age where it might be time for him to start leaving the herd. Then I always sort of sympathize with the young male elephants at this age, because none of the rest of the herd really want them around. They get pushed and shoved to the outskirts and serve as a frustration vent for the females at times, whenever they happen to get too close. We saw a really extreme example of that not terribly long ago, where a female pushed over a young male of about just a little bit younger than this, and pinned him to the ground. I've never seen anything like it. And I think it only happened because he slipped on the road. But either way, it was incredibly intense to witness that. So at this age, the level of respect that the rest of the herd has for these chaps is pretty much zero. Let's just try go forward a little bit, so we've got him away from the rest of the plant life there. Hello, boy. Tell your family to come this way. It would be very nice. I don't think our bull is going to go off anywhere anytime soon, and I do think that these elephants are moving slowly towards the more open area of Gowrie Cut Line. Oh, we'll just spend a little bit of time being patient, which is quite often the way to find yourself in the best possible elephant sighting. Letting them choose to come to you is the ideal way of approaching it, because the choice is left up to them, and when they are left with the choice, you'll find that they will quite comfortably walk right up to the vehicle. They would never ever let you get that close if you were trying to approach them, but because they've made that choice and that decision, they are far more comfortable with it. It's one of the very first things that they teach you in guiding school, however you may do it. Always let the animal come to you, and never ever push into their personal space beyond what they are comfortable with. Those are the first signs that you start to look for. So for a young boy, his tusks are starting to thicken out nicely. You can see the grooves developing on the left one. I can't see his right tusk, so I can't tell whether he's left or right tusked. I think he's left tusked. And elephants usually have a slave and a master tusk. It's the equivalent, or their equivalent, of being left and right tusked or handed. Now, big girl, moving at the back. Are you coming this way? Would you like to come this way? I would like you to come this way. Our afternoon sunset safari. JR would like to know what factors determine the size of an elephant's home range. Resources, food and water. That will pretty much be the only two factors that they will consider. And within that falls the number of elephants. So how many elephants there are in that particular area, the concentration of elephants. If there's lots and lots, then their home ranges inevitably have to be slightly smaller. Although, that being said, elephants are not territorial beasts. So, whilst if you get a really high concentration of lions, you'll find that their territories are smaller. If you get a very high concentration of leopards, you'll find that their territories and therefore their home ranges are smaller. But with elephants, it doesn't matter to them. They are quite happy to move about in each other's space, in each other's areas. Maybe join up with another herd for a couple of days, spend some time with them. But the size that or the amount of ground that they cover, the distance that they cover, will quite often be determined by food and by water. So the less food there is, the more ground they have to travel each and every day, and that's one of the reasons why they get a little bit tetchy. They're okay now because it's winter, so it's not too hot. But in the summer months when it's hot and it's dry, as we've experienced with the drought, our elephants' behavior definitely took a turn for the slightly more on edge. It's nice to see them relatively back to normal. I mean, this herd is totally, totally relaxed with our presence. They haven't even glanced in our direction, except for the young male every now and again. I'm trying to think, JR, if there's anything else I've forgotten in terms of factors, but I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it. Good afternoon, Aaron, and welcome to the Sunset Safari. Aaron has a question about our mammal friends in front of us, and that is whether or not once their calves have had, when the calves are born, they have hair. They are very fuzzy, and Aaron would like to know if they shed that hair as they get older. And the answer is yes, a little bit. They are certainly less fuzzy when they grow up, but if you ever find yourself close up to an elephant, if you ever are lucky enough to be able to touch one of these amazing creatures, as I've been through various darting, for example, we had to move a big bull out of the reserve I used to work at because he was being he'd broken in, and he was being quite thoroughly harassed by the other males in that area. So we had to remove him, and if you go and touch them, they're actually quite hairy. It doesn't look like it because it's very sparse, but they've got thick, relatively short and spiky dark hairs on their skin. So they're more hairy than they look. And that just helps to trap the little bits of moisture that might cover their skin, at the same time not providing too much cover to actually be dense. Hello, little one. You cute. Yes. Love baby elephants. Let's go forward ever so slightly, not to get in their space, just to be there when they come out into the road. Hello, little boy. Do you mind if I come through? You're going to go join your family. Ah, you want that tree. I see, fair enough. Chandra is going to shout at me because there's going to be camera in my face. There we go.
I would never shout.
Never, Chandra. There we go. We've got them coming across the road. Lovely little herd. I thought initially it was our snared trunk elephant, but it's not. Just because I saw the baby and the baby looked like the right age. Oopsie! Hello, little one. Wandering across to keep up with Mum and Big Sister. We're going to reposition and stick with these elephants for a little bit longer. However, can you believe it? Brent has still got that slender mongoose. Let's go and have a quick look.
So we're still sitting with the mongoose. He went down the hole. I'm not quite sure what he's up to at the moment. We've just been sitting patiently waiting for him. Maybe he's using it as a periscope spot, hoping an unsuspecting Franklin will come for a drink. You can see very alert little creatures. Of course, they also will go into those disused termite burrows to hunt for rodents and other things that might live down there. So their territories are very similar to sort of your large cats or solitary cats, even though they are a mongoose, of course. But one male will have multiple females within his territory. The females hold smaller territories, and after mating, the male has very little or nothing to do with the rearing of the young. But it doesn't look like he's going to move. I think he's going to sit there and wait for some poor unsuspecting victim to come to him. And as wonderful as it would be to sit here all afternoon watching the little mongoose, let's go see if we can find a bigger carnivore next. There's his little hidey hole. And there we go, bypassing 3 in a row pan. While we go in search of larger carnivores, Jamie's with the largest animal we get here out in the bush.
The largest animal we get, and I know the sort of strange moments, particularly when driving with Wiem. I am exceedingly grateful that it is not the largest carnivore that we get here, but instead a gentle, plant-eating animal. Our little male has walked, I say little, when he's right up next to you, he isn't that little at all. And when he walks past the vehicle, when he walks past right up close, it was sort of eye level with his jaw. And he's not that small. It's such a special, peaceful sighting. He kind of half looked at us and then just kept walking. A really peaceful sighting. They've obviously just come and had a drink at the Djuma Dam, and are now enjoying a stroll in the afternoon light. Very iconic image, that. An elephant strolling along a road. And they do stroll. That's how I would describe their standard walk. An amble, perhaps. Oh, what's happening, girl? She's talking now. She's talking to him. It's interesting. So what I meant by that was, and I don't know if you could hear it, John, could you hear it? Not really. There's a very deep, bassy rumble that is elephant communication. And it originated from the female of this herd. And she is the only female, from what I can tell. I mean, the only adult female. The rest of them are all young. She rumbled deep in her chest, and then he responded. I wonder if she wasn't saying, where are you going? Or, what are you, where are you? Don't go too far. And he, I imagine in my head, which is probably not the case, in his teenage way, probably responded something along the lines of, "Oh, Mom, fine. You little one? You're terribly cute." You can already see from its behavior that it's a female. If it had been a male calf, there's a very good chance that it would have come scuttling out to greet us, being very brave until it realized how far Mom was, and then racing back again. You can clearly distinguish in terms of behavior between females and males. And watch it trailing after its big sister now. Sitting in the presence of these giants, one cannot help but feel a tremendous sense of peace with the world. I just read a story recently about an elephant that fell into a rock pool in the Kruger National Park. A baby elephant. It was thirsty and it had obviously slipped and fallen in, and it couldn't touch the bottom. Elephants are very capable swimmers, even from a young age, but it couldn't touch the bottom of this pool, and therefore couldn't get the momentum it needed to clamber its way out of the rocks. It was well and truly stuck until its mom, who was sort of frantically trumpeting and panicking around the circle of it, until its mom eventually climbed into it with it, into the pool, and pushed the little baby out while the rest of the herd watched her. And she finally managed to yank herself out, and there's a video of it apparently. I haven't watched the video. I'm not sure what one would have to Google in order to find that. Probably mommy elephant rescues baby, or whatever else, the way that YouTube search approaches go. But it's definitely something I'm going to have a look at when I get home tonight, because it sounded like a truly magical experience and a lovely insight into, first of all, the herd dynamics, and second of all, into just how important how powerful the bond is between a mother and a calf elephant. So now, this little one, I would guess at about a year old, has been eating solids for the last 6 or so months, but at the same time has only got little baby teeth, little baby molars, and will still be suckling from mom as well to supplement her diet. Right now it's a sort of a half and half thing, which is generally why baby elephants have more time for playing. First of all, because they're little and they've got more energy, and second of all, because they are getting the additional nutrients from mom's milk. And Anna in Cape Town, welcome to the Sunset Safari. Anna is wondering about the tail hair of an elephant and wants to know if that continues to grow as they get older. Do they ever shed any of it or lose any of it? And yes, absolutely they do. So it's a continuous growth process. And my mom always comments on elephant tails. She always says they look a little bit ridiculous for such an enormous animal. And she's got an entirely valid point. The longer you look at an elephant's tail, the stranger it looks. And just like that, all of our elephants have become a bit shy and are hiding their tails away from us. But Anna does continue to grow, and they do shed it every now and again, just like human beings with the hair on our head, or actually the hair anywhere else. We do constantly lose the hair, our eyelashes, our eyebrows, and elephant tail hair is no different. Oh, that's quite the mouthful, little one. That actually doesn't look too appetizing. It does not look like you're enjoying it at all. And of course, as a baby, hasn't really got, yuck, not nice. Hasn't really got the coordination of the trunk down. And the whole feeding process, like a toddler that insists on feeding itself with a knife and fork or a spoon, the whole feeding process is a little bit lengthier and a little bit messier as a result. Tucking into a young green thorn. There you go. For Anna, having a look at our tail now that Mom has moved a bit closer. And speaking from experience again, that tail hair is really, really awesome to feel. It's thick, it's almost like wire that they grow. And it's malleable and very, very stiff. Just be careful though, next time you come to South Africa, about buying things like elephant hair bracelets. Just remember that elephant hair has got to come from somewhere. And there will always be a question as to where that was obtained and how it was obtained from the elephant. A lot of it, in certain areas, will come from elephants in sanctuary, just shedding the hair. Just think about the number of elephant bracelets that you see in tourist shops around South Africa. and then ask yourself the question as to just how many elephants there are in sanctuaries and if they could provide that amount of hair for those bracelets. Just a little point about the ethics of shopping, or especially curio shopping in Africa. And several tons of animal just walked past us while we were chatting about that. Barely heard a sound. Even on the quietest of days, all you really hear is the scuffing of their feet. They don't even really seem to disturb the leaves as they walk along. The cushioning on the bottom of their feet sort of muffles the sound as they wander off. Little one tailing behind Mum. I'm just wondering when it's going to occur to the little female that she's been left behind. Speaking about the ethics of curios, of course, none of us would set out to buy ivory trinkets or anything of that nature. But Diane and Lynn are both wondering about our dead elephants on Buffelshoek, and we're wondering what happens to those tusks. They are reported, or the death is reported immediately to the Sabi Sand. All unexplained deaths have to be, particularly in the drought. Now, it's normal. I'm going to just go forward a little bit, catch up with the elephants, but elephant deaths at this time of year is normal. The older elephants struggle in terms of meeting their nutritional needs. As you know, their teeth will get worn down, and so they don't have quite the same chewing capabilities that they might if they were younger. And if you factor in old age plus a lack of nutrients, and you get natural deaths like this occurring, regardless of whether we were in a drought or not. But what will happen is the death gets reported, and the Sabi Sand will go and collect the tusks. And as to what happens to it from there, I actually can't tell you. I don't know where they put it. I know that it will go into a safe house of sorts, or into a bank vault, where it will be kept and not sold or utilized in any way. Oh, it's quite a nice little combination of sizes we've got there. Just for aging elephants, actually. If I had to guess, I'd say 1 year old, well, the youngest one, obviously. And then I would guess at around 3.5. Maybe, no, I'd say about 3 for the middle one. And then the older female I haven't had a proper look at to age. But never fear, those tusks are taken away from where they can be utilized to feed the black market ivory trade. They're put somewhere for safekeeping. I don't know where they put it, and I wouldn't tell you even if I did. Not of course for Diane and Lynn, but for anybody else that might want to have access to that information. But never fear, they will put it somewhere safe, as they do with rhino horn. And even that piece of what Brent thought was ivory turned out to be petrified leadwood on closer examination, but what he thought he found a piece of ivory on Cheetah Plains, and he was about to take that through to the Sabi Sand management to give it to them to keep safe. And like most of the other countries, South Africa is governed by CITES, which controls the trade of such things. And it's an international treaty, which means, you know, as treaties can be ignored by the various countries, but they usually aren't, just in terms of the political backlash. So ivory is not traded in any way for profit. Our boy is leading the way, wandering off towards the drainage line. An interesting point, we're getting very, very close to where that lion den site is hidden, or at least was hidden. Herbert found it yesterday morning on the sunrise safari, just off this road in this drainage line. And he's showed us roughly where it is. However, we are not able to, first of all, it's not in a good spot for getting a vehicle in. We're going to do tremendous damage to the area, which we try not to do. There's lots of tambuerties there. It's a sensitive, environmentally sensitive area, so we're not going to create a road in there. And also, it's a very, very tricky spot. We'd have to push over lots of trees, and it's just not, for us, it's not worth it in terms of, as much as we'd love to show you those little lion cubs, I'm sure none of you would mind waiting a little bit longer for them to pop out, rather than doing damage that will take 10 years to repair itself. I'm going to stick with my Ellies until I can't any longer, until they disappear into the drainage line. Let's go across to Brent and find out how Cheetah Plains is treating him.
My daughter wants to know what are you doing for what.
Okay, sorry guys, we'll be back with you now. So we're actually on a live game drive. So yeah, so there's everyone's at home behind the camera. That antenna sends. I don't know how that job works. I just drive around. So it's called Safari Live. It's on the Nat.Geo Wild websites, wildsafariLive.com, and then we do a couple of TV shows live to the channel in the States a year. Well, I better get back to my guests. They're all sitting behind there. No problem. Cheers. Good luck. Thanks for. So, very interesting news. The Styx Pride is not too far from us here with all their cubs. Unfortunately, they are to the south of our boundary. And fingers crossed they might move towards 3 in a row Pan for a drink or maybe come back into our Travis area. About 150 meters. We can't actually see them. We can just see a car parked there. So I'm hoping that before we head back to Djuma, maybe those lions will come out for a visit. But we've just stopped on the edge of the big open area and we're glassing, using binoculars, checking all the bits of shade, seeing if there were any creatures of interest out there. And unfortunately, we didn't find. Oh, we found one. Oh, Dave. So unfortunately, no luck just yet. Now you can actually see that the ground looks a little bit greener than it did a week or so ago. That little bit of rain seems to be a slight green tinge over the plain. But why don't we go keep checking the rest of Cheetah Plains and keep our fingers crossed that the Styx Pride's going to be back shortly. Hi, Kim is wondering, has there ever been a fire out here in the wild? Yes, regularly. And sometimes the fires are on purpose. People put them in, they're called controlled burns. This year, I don't think we're in much risk of a fire. There's nothing to burn because of the drought. So you need grass to burn, and grass is not something we have plenty of at the moment. But here you can see what I was talking about, how there is just the slightest little green flush coming up after the little bit of rain we had. You can see some fresh shoots coming through on the grass. Okay, there's our first bird of the sunset safari, the crowned lapwing. Hello, little guys. Quite pretty little ones. Oh, noisy. Oh, I wonder if they've got a nest around here. They are behaving like that. And what he's trying to do is lead me away from the nest. Right. They are quite funny. This was the bird we decided James was most like. Just from the way it moves, the noise it makes. You can almost see James doing his exercise at the moment, running around quarantine. I think Dave's enjoying the joke more than anyone else. He's cackling away behind me. They're ground nesting birds. Their nest is a little depression in the sand, and their eggs are incredibly camouflaged. Speckled eggs, but speckled in all the colours of the ground. They look like little pebbles almost. Well, let's leave the lapwings. Bye, James. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, where did it go? No, that's the same bird. There was another bird I just saw as we drove off. That's the same species. Oh, it's gone. It took off. So, while we take off towards Cheetah Plains Pan, let's go back to Jamie and those wonderful Ellies.
And Jerry has sent you back across to us, somewhat taking me by surprise. I'm sorry, I was a mid-sip of water. It was entirely my fault. And we have some elephants still with us in the drainage line. Unfortunately, this is pretty much the best view that we've got. The rest of the herd has moved into the very, very thick vegetation of the river system. And we've just been enjoying the peace of this afternoon's sighting. Thoroughly enjoyable to just sit here in the winter sunlight and watch them go about their afternoon business. I think, however, unless they decide to pop back out onto the road once again, I think it's time for us to leave them and go off in search of different things, perhaps a separate herd of elephants wandering about Buffelshoek Dam. I'm still waiting to hear, by the way, because one of the vehicles has gone on to Buffelshoek. I'm still waiting to hear whether or not they find lions at Tambuti Dam. I'm really hoping that they do, but I've been too embarrassed to call in case it's a rock. If I'd seen them in person, it would be one thing, but to call it in on the Game Drive channel might be a bit more tricky. And Harry, just before we move on from our elephants completely, welcome to the Sunset Safari. And I'm actually going to go quite slowly as we drive along here, just in case these lionesses have come back and are just resting off in the thick vegetation here. Who knows, we might spot another lion log. But just before we leave the topic of our elephants, Harry would like to know, because he's heard that, or we have said that elephants pick up the low rumbles in their feet, and would like to know if their feet are very, very sensitive. Well, Harry, it is absolutely true. Yes, they have special nerve receptors on the bottom of their feet for those vibrations. However, the rumblings that we heard, they would have heard like we heard them with their ears. So it's only really for those really deep, low-frequency calls, the calls that we can't even hear, that they will be using their feet to receive those calls for. So they will have very, very sensitive feet. It doesn't mean that their feet are sensitive to pain or anything else like that, because obviously they can't be if they're wandering around stepping on thorns and whatever else it is that they happen to find. See, this is where the lion den is. The elephants have already walked through here today, just judging by the tracks coming out. Lion den is at the Leadwood, but it's in this section of drainage line, which is very, very difficult to get into. It's pure Tambuti. It's a wall of Tambuti trees, and whilst we are happy to off-road and under certain circumstances, driving over Tambuti trees and things like baby leadwoods and whatever else that happens to be in this particular patch, they're very sensitive, and they are there to help prevent erosion. If we go and squash them flat, we're going to do some serious damage to the ecosystem of this drainage line, which is already eroding in places. The soil is washing away. We don't want to add to that particular situation. So there is the leadwood that Herbert has been using as a marker. What we often do when working with a tracker, Herbert, by the way, is our tracker. What we often do, or what he will often do, is he will say to us 50 meters south of the big Jackalberry on Gowrie Cut Line, or in this case, just opposite the big Leadwood on Gowrie Cut Line. Instead of having signposts that say things, we have markers that are things like big trees. Big old trees that everybody knows are there. You get very familiar with an area. Ooh. It's okay, Wendy. So it's basically the equivalent of saying turn left at the petrol station, or gas station, I suppose, would be a better translation. But out here in the African bush, it's turn right at the Leadwood, or go east from the Leadwood, and you'll find a lion in there somewhere. And a real lion. 3 real lions. 3 tiny little lions, not lion logs. I'm going to go and check out Buffelshoek Dam. Perhaps the animals are tiring of what's left of the muddy water holes that remained after the rain. And while we go and investigate that, let us find out where Brent is on Cheetah Plains and what he's up to.
We're right on the eastern side of Cheetah Plains, and just having a good look over this open area. I'm also going to go down towards where Dave is showing now my favourite part of Cheetah Plains, and the area around Buff Pan. It has been very quiet. The Styx lions are just out of our reach, but who knows, maybe Nkanyeni might be within our reach. I haven't even seen old Gnormus Gnorman today. Those of you not sure who Gnormus Gnorman is, Gnormus Gnorman is a GNU. He's a GNU that resides on Cheetah Plains normally. But with this water, he might not be where he thinks, where he normally is. And then old Gnormus has got a rival who lives in this area, and his name is Normal Norman. Yeah, very, very quiet, not an impala in sight. Ha! There is one impala in sight. Well, there could be more than one, but there's one I spotted. There are a few more impala. Well, at least it's a living creature. And a kudu. Hello, kudu. A beautiful female kudu browsing upon Acacia gerardi. Now, when looking for a leopard, seeing all these guys so relaxed, not the best. And now, to the left of her, atop a termite mound, keeping a lookout, is another kudu. Using the high ground to her advantage. And a second kudu. And those solar panels you see in the background are for the water pump. Oh, there we go. That was off at speed for no particular reason. Just for the joy of it. Okay, well, the kudus and impala have moved into the thickets. Let's move on past the thickets. Hi Michael. Michael would like to know, when was the last time we saw a cheetah and cheetah plains? Michael, I don't know, I'm afraid. I really don't. I haven't seen one in it seems to be an age. The last cheetah I actually saw was on Djuma, on foot. Unfortunately, it ran away from me. Mike, so I'm just going to be on the game drive for a quick second. Mike, Cheetah Plains, if you copy me, go in Northern Channel, please. Mike, confirm you on the east, you were talking about the Styx Pride. Side-striped jackal. Sorry guys. Copy Mike. I went past there. I could see the Mala vehicle was still inside Mala. If you're interested, there are side-striped jackal on Kalkor. FM. Look at that. So awesome. Copy, thanks. They are such cool little creatures. Oh, sorry guys, everyone seems to want to talk to me now. Standing by. Copy, thanks very much. Jamie, I'm in Cheetah Plains. Jamie's probably go have a look. She's at Buffelshoek Dam now. Sorry about that, guys. Everyone seemed to want to talk to me at the same time. There we go, side-striped jackal. Now, out of the two jackal species, this is the more omnivorous. Look at that. So they eat lots of different fruits, insects, as well as rodents, and they will very, very seldom will they scavenge off a carcass, but they sometimes do. Looks like they're heading off into the bush there. Pair of side-striped jackal. Well, it seems like we can't find the big carnivores, but we found two small carnivores, so maybe we should make it a small carnivore safari. Wouldn't that be nice to see serval or caracal, maybe? Now, unfortunately, we cannot see the jackals anymore. They have moved off into the thicket. So we're going to go keep checking around this northern section of... Dave, stop touching my jacket. Bring it back here. Dave's moving my jacket. Leave my jacket alone. This northern section of Cheetah Plains. I'm also hoping for quarantine. This is the area he's been frequenting between Heron and Coral. And also, hopefully a bit later, as Styx Pride decide to come out. But I've just heard it sounds like they're on a kill there. So it's unlikely they're going to move through today, but maybe tomorrow. Well, we continue to check the northern edge of Cheetah Plains. Jamie has arrived at the Buffalo's Hook waterhole.
We have indeed arrived at the Buffalo's Hook waterhole, finding it's occupied by its usual resident, the hippopotamus that is very often here, and his friend, the terrapin, that is also very often on top of him, using him as a nice little support base to sit and sun itself whenever the water gets that little bit too cold. Now we see this hippopotamus here pretty much every single day. I don't know if it's my imagination, but his eye on his left, well, on his right, our left, seems to be really red. Am I imagining that? I don't think so. Perhaps it's just the way that he's blinking and closing it. I wonder whether or not he hasn't been slightly injured in some kind of fight with another hippopotamus. Now, he's here pretty much every single day, using Buffalo's Hook as the only place, is the only place that he can come and seek shelter from the hot afternoon sun. And every now and again he'll give a barrel roll, and the white splodges around his shoulder suggest that it's not just his terrapin friend that has been utilizing him as a resting point, but also perhaps a bird as well that has decided to leave him a token of their gratitude in allowing them to sit on his back. There seemed to be something really strange about his eye. Maybe it's just the angle and the way that the sun is hitting it. Buffalo's Hook Dam, I wouldn't call it much enhanced by the rain that we had the other day. A couple of nights ago, for our newer viewers, we had about 15 or so mils of rain, which was very much welcomed by all of the animals and the human beings out here, since we have, I think the last time we saw rain of that to that extent was around March sometime, which is relatively normal for our dry season, but factored on top of a very dry, wet season as well, and it was a pleasure to have a little bit of moisture. That being said, Buffalo's Hook Dam isn't really looking all that full. It's starting to turn muddy once again, and I wonder whether we'll see any remaining fishes that might have survived the last time that this dam dried out. Perhaps some of the catfish under the mud, perhaps we'll see them once again as this dam starts to dry out. I've just been checking really carefully in the shade. I've just had a report come through from one of the landowners that they found a kill after the sunrise safari that was finished just off a central road along with some lion tracks, which is very, very exciting, and I was hoping perhaps the lions might decide to come and pay a visit to Buffalo's Hook Dam to have a quick drink. But if not, we're going to go and investigate wherever that kill site was and see if we can't work out where the lions have gone from there. That would definitely explain where the lions have been, if they've been hiding on a kill on the eastern boundary of Djuma. I think that might be something nice for us to go and investigate. So we shall. And welcome to Mary on our sunset safari. Mary has said, well, don't hippos live in groups? This must surely be a male, and the females live in the groups. Mary, kind of. So hippos are really quite comfortable with being gregarious in a pod. You'll even find there's a couple of large bulls in a collection of hippos. But when the water levels start to drop and space gets more limited, the bulls in particular, you are right, by the way, it is a male, the bulls in particular start to come into conflict with each other. But Mary, the reason this hippo is alone more than anything else, apart from the fact that hippos are not getting on with each other because they don't want to share what little water is left, is because all of these water holes are artificial. They were built when the Sabi Sand was opened as a game reserve, and what that meant was there were big dams where there didn't used to be big dams, and therefore there were big hippos where there didn't used to be big hippos, which has been fine in our years of plenty rainfall, but has been less fine during the drought period where they haven't been able to, or they would definitely not have survived. And what the Sabi Sand did was actually capture most of the hippopotamus in this area. Put them through passive capture, so no active capture, passive capture by putting up nets and bales of lucerne. They then transported them to a part of the country that has had far more rain and therefore has far more water for them to be at home in. It's because there's so little water and because most of the hippo have been removed that we're only seeing one alone in the dam. It is quite common, you are right, the females will be more gregarious and it'll be more likely to see a male on his own. But to be completely honest with you, the hippo dynamics of this area have been completely topsy-turvy since I arrived here. I don't know what they were like before, I can only imagine. But when I arrived here just over a year ago, this dam had far more water than it does now. It's slow, or the slow impact of this drought has been relatively terrifying to see, especially on the animals like this hippo. And unfortunately for him, that's it now. As far as I know, they're not going to remove any more hippos. That will be it for the foreseeable future, and these chaps will just have to eke out a living, or eke out a way of surviving in whatever water they can find. There are still pumped dams, though, for them to seek refuge in. For example, Red Dam on Arathusa is looking amazing. It's got lots and lots of water, the perfect hiding hole for a hippopotamus to sleep in and to shelter himself from the sun. Janet, welcome to our sunset safari. And Janet, I think, might be new to our safaris. I don't think I've heard your name before, so it's lovely to have you asking questions. Janet would like to know what our hippopotamus will generally eat. He is going to sleep his way away throughout the heat of the afternoon. Then as it starts to get dark, he's going to head out and he's going to go and eat whatever grass he can find. So hippos are pure bulk grazers. They eat grass, which does explain why they're active far more than they might be during the winter months, because they actually have to try and sustain 2.5 tons of bulk on whatever grass they can find. And I have to tell you, there's hardly any grass. There is barely anything left. If I look across now to the northern side of the dam, I actually barely see a blade of grass. So how on earth these animals are managing to survive? They're having to cover enormous distances at night to go and find grass to eat. And I imagine they're doing a little bit of browsing as well to supplement, because the trees are the only things with any nutrients left. And we've still got a little way to go. And by a little way I mean at least 2 months before the grass starts to grow back, and it's probably going to be even longer. They're going to have to, as I said, cover enormous distances. We're going to move away from the sad state of affairs with the animals and this drought, and we're going to go and see what those lions have been up to. They have been dancing merry circles around us over the last 3 days. Let's go and see if we can't find them now. And while we do that, I believe that Brent has been hearing reports of different things on Cheetah Plains, but you don't have to take my word for it. You can go and hear it from him.
So the report from Cheetah Plains is that there's a starling feeding or hunting in the leaf litter. It's a Cape glossy starling, very beautiful bird. I wonder if there's some termites under there that he's found. What you found there, starling? It's such a striking bird with that orange eye and that iridescent colour. be quite aggressive towards other birds, darling. And be quite almost a bird bully. We saw one of those yesterday as well. It looks like that little patch of leaves is not too interesting to the starling anymore. So let's carry on. So I've just got another report about those Styx lions in Mala Mala. So unfortunately I'm about 90%, 95% certain that they're not going to come back across. So we're going to go now down into the western corner of Cheetah Plains, not an area we drive too often, and to see if we have any luck there. If no luck, I think we'll go try help Jamie find those dancing merry lions of Djuma. You hear that calling? It's a red-crested Koran. I'm hoping it does its suicide dance. It's the right time of the year. Okay, sometimes when you start up it sets them off. Come on, take off, suicide dance, no. Well, we're going to see if we can try spot it now. Sounds like it's around that big termite mound in the distance there. There he is, I think. No, not. Stick. They can be quite tricky to spot. Nope, unfortunately not. So we're going to keep cruising around. Just check into this western sector where we don't go very often. And then, no luck, head back to the northwest. We can find that red-crested Koran on this road. It's maybe here. He's calling somewhere in this vicinity. No, he's a bit further into the block. Well, let's continue on towards the southern boundary of Cheetah Plains, and then we're going to head west. Now, let's think. I think if we think like an animal, maybe one will pop out. But while Dave and I try think like a leopard, let's keep you guys busy with a little quiz. What should we quiz today? Oops. Ha! I've got one. What is, it's a multi-point question. In what country is the highest recorded leopard, and where exactly was that leopard recorded? What country was the highest altitude a leopard was ever recorded in, and where in that particular country. It's quite an iconic spot. So I'm sure someone out there must know that. And if you know the answers to that, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, country and the area that the highest ever, at the highest ever altitude a leopard was found. And also you can send your answers through to questions at WildEarthTV. While we fly to the west, Jamie's got a big bird who's doing some flying of its own.
I do have something enormous flying in the air, and Jandra is doing an incredible job of managing to keep it on your screens. I have to tell you, I don't know what it is. It is totally pale underneath. Initially I thought martial eagle, but martial eagles have brown wings underneath them when they fly over. Oh, there's two. I mean, it's definitely not a vulture species. It's very white. It's also, the sun is very bright where it is. But I couldn't tell you, I don't know which bird of prey this is. I need it to come and land. It's big. It's one of the bigger eagle species. It looked like maybe a juvenile marshal. I don't know if juvenile marshals have completely white under their wings. Oh, and it's gone. Well, if any of you have any suggestions, and perhaps you could see it. Apparently you can see it slightly better than I can. I think it's a juvenile martial eagle. It's big enough to be a juvenile martial eagle. It's definitely not an adult, because an adults have brown underneath their wings. I'm relatively certain, just in terms of size. I'm also now blind. Not blind, but I'm definitely been staring at the sun for too long. Oh. I'm relatively certain, though, that was a martial. Oh, look here. Oh, sorry. They've stopped doing it. The go-away birds were having a fight, which I've never seen before. As quite as ferocious as that was. And they're still fighting. But I think that we have a winner. It's a pity we don't have Rusty's camera. Right, let's go for now. I do want to get to where this kill is, because I'm sure that if it is around here, and these lions must be too. Now, it wasn't here this morning, or if it was very well hidden. Which means that we must have missed it, or it's relatively tiny, because the person who found it was out later after the end of the sunrise safari, so it might have been something small that the lionesses caught and then ate. But I want to go and just find these lion tracks and investigate. The more I think about it, the more certain I am that was a juvenile martial eagle. I'm almost positive. Which is really nice, because we haven't been seeing all that many of them. It's the largest eagle species that you could see out here. And they are really, when we say they're enormous, they are enormous. And over 6 foot wingspan, more than 6 feet. I think it's actually closer to 7 feet. And they are capable of tackling small antelope. They've been known to catch baby impala and steenbok. There was even a recorded case where one caught and broke the back of an adult impala. Couldn't carry it away and couldn't really feed on it, but did attempt it. And then there was the rumor, and I'm still convinced it was a little bit of a tall story, but there is a story about a martial eagle taking a small child as well, or attempting to grab a small child. But they are very big birds of prey. Definitely, if you're an owner of a small dog, definitely an animal to watch out for. I know I spent the first few weeks of Lexi's young life, yet Lexi, my Weimaraner, desperately watching her and dashing to stand over her protectively whenever an eagle flew over. At 30 kilograms now, she's a little bit too big for even a martial eagle to think about tackling, but those first few weeks when she was bumbling about as a puppy were terrifying. The first animal she ever saw out here was an elephant. She was 8 weeks old. And she was so young that she didn't even register this enormous thing next to the vehicle. She just wanted to go back to sleep. Shannon is absolutely not a dumb question. Shannon is watching in Ohio and has asked what I think is a very salient question, which is, why do most of the animals out here have brown or dark colored eyes? It's because most of the animals out here are daytime or diurnal animals that we get to see. Look at the eyes of a leopard or a lion or a hyena. They might still be brown, but they're more with a yellowish tinge. They're much lighter than the eyes of something like an elephant or a hippopotamus. Well, not a hippopotamus, that's a bad example. An elephant or a buffalo or any of the antelope species. And it's just because it reduces glare. So people with pale eyes can attest to the fact that you often have to squint into the sun on a bright day, whereas people with slightly darker eyes have an easier time of it, because dark absorbs light and white reflects it. This is one of their favorite patches. According to all reports, this kill, I don't even know what this kill is or was, but it's somewhere just ahead of us, and that there were lion tracks all over the show. There's lion tracks going that way, old, but they've been driven over. So Sharon, not a silly question at all. It's to reduce glare. It's the same reason why cheetah have the dark stripes that run down the sides of their face, and lions and leopards have the light stripes underneath their eyes to reflect light. It depends on whether your animal is a daytime or a nocturnal animal. Even bush babies have almost orange eyes when you look closely at them. So a lot of the nocturnal species have slightly lighter eyes. But then you also get the cases of pigmentation or a problem with the genetic code in an animal, or rare mutations that produce things like leucistic lions, which is the white lions, and they're not fully albino, so they don't have the red eyes and the lack of pigment completely, but they get blue eyes. And there is a reason that it is so rare, and that's because it comes at a huge disadvantage for that particular animal. Albino animals that are born out here tend to die relatively quickly. Their skin is too sensitive to the sun, and they often go blind at the same time as their skin is damaged by the sun. But leucistic animals have just enough pigment to maybe be okay, but it still comes at a tremendous advantage. So leucistic is a more lightish colored animal, but not fully albino with the red eyes. Okay, right. Slow down a little bit here, just in case it's just to give me a chance to find another lion log, basically.